Okay, let's get it. Black girl magic dripping. Yeah, she's on a mission. Keeping our culture lifted. Now you can watch and listen. It's Tammi Mac. Tammi Mac. Oh, what show is that? It's the Tammi Mac Show on Fox Soul.
Tammi Mac, ay, Tammi Mac, yeah. Ooh, that Tammi Mac. Tammi Mac, ay, so you know it's Tammi Mac, ay, Tammi Mac.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. I am Tammi Mac. Thank you for being here tonight. Look, in this country, Black people have continuously protested for our rights by speaking out, protesting and voting to achieve true equality and justice. And although we have achieved much in this country, there is one thing that has always stopped our progress, and that is the huge wealth gap disparity between us and our white counterparts. Having access to true wealth would give us the power to demand influence on the state, local, and national levels. So why not talk about that thing? Tonight, I have invited a panel of experts to discuss the obstacles that have stopped people in the Black community from achieving true wealth and what we need to do to close that wealth gap for good. Tonight, the business of being Black is closing the wealth gap. Please welcome the CEO of One United Bank, Kevin Cohey. Hi, Kevin.
What's up?
The owner of JB Bryan Financial Group, JB Bryan, of course. Hi, JB.
To be here. Thank you.
Senior Financial Advisor, Marie Deary. Hi, Ms. Deary.
Hi.
And the founder of the Black Business School, Dr. Boyce Watkins. Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. Let's get right down to the business of the money, honey. Why should Black people care about the wealth gap in America?
It exists. It's something that we have to deal with, as a reality. There was a study done called The Road to Zero Wealth, and it really opened up a lot of eyes. I think that, not the average person probably didn't read it, but I tried to bring it to the attention of as many people as possible. And it says that within the next 40 years, there will be the wealth for Black and people of color will be non-existent. So the gap now exists, but they're projecting that it's going to get even lower. And this study was done pre-COVID. So I feel that a big part of the solution is that every day we have to be about our financial business. Every day we have to be empowering ourselves, disciplining our entire family, and increasing the consciousness of generational wealth and the importance of it.
Go ahead, Dr. Watkins.
Yeah, I think that wealth is it's kind of that it's an easy equation to solve. It's just it reminds me of when I used to be fat. I used to have a big problem with weight. I in college you have the freshman 15. Well, I had the freshman 15 every year after after the age of 30. And what I realized was that when I was trying to lose weight, is that the solution was not complex. I just need to stop eating Twizzlers and start going to the gym. The hard work was doing it. I was really incarcerated by my bad habits. I didn't want to change. I didn't want to grow. I didn't want to evolve. And it wasn't until I had to really surrender, to a new type of thinking that I was able to actually make that transformation. So I think that when you talk about the wealth, the easy thing about it is that when you look at all the problems Black people have, social problems, educational problems, political issues, a lot of those problems are solved if you fix the wealth issue. If we really center ourselves on the one thing, and we really make that right, a lot of other problems will go away. So I really think this is the generation to do that.
Marie, why should Black people care about the wealth gap?
Well, I really agree, because in order for us to change our condition when it comes to finances, we have to develop what I call the smart money mindset. And we have to be disciplined enough to understand, like in basketball, in football, there are rules. And we have to know the rules in order to play the game. So for a mighty long time, they did not want us to play the game. If you look back in 1863, And like I always said, you know, when they were building houses and giving houses away in the 40s, we were never given that opportunity. So we never had the opportunity to create, build, or distribute wealth to our families. So now what we need to do is to develop those the smart money mindset, which will enable us to do the things that we need to do to get ahead, knowing that we are starting from way back.
Kevin, why should Black people care about the wealth gap in America?
Well, because it's the root of all of our social, political, and economic problems. They all tie to this issue of wealth. As we all know, many of your social ills, everything from teenage pregnancy rate to unemployment rate, are tied to wealth. Now, let me try to put this in perspective for you. When we talk about this gap, what we're talking about is the average Black family has a net worth of, let's call it $17,500. The average white family has a net worth of about $177,000. That difference in family net worth we refer to as the racial wealth gap. When we look at it, when I think about it, I say, you know, that's really not a lot of money, really. But what makes it significant, so significant right now, is the difference between having nothing and having something. Now, however, when you analyze the problem, it's not that difficult a problem to solve. At One United Bank, we developed this program which we call One Transaction. And what we mean by that is Black people are only one single transaction away from eliminating the wealth gap. In the cities, the reason I asked you where you were is because in any city you're in, if a family had simply bought a house, you would have eliminated that wealth gap. There's a series of simple transactions that if you understand them, if you have the knowledge of how to execute the transaction, and that's what we're focused on at the bank. We're focused on, number one, getting people to understand that this is only about one transaction. And
okay, Kevin, you have to make that clear for us. Okay, I understand.
Kevin, I don't understand that either. Kevin, how can purchasing a house, which is going to immediately put them in debt, get rid of the wealth gap, when actually, when you look at it statistically, since 2007, 2009, and 2010, and Black families still haven't recovered from a loss due to foreclosures. It was a real estate dip. When we had the Great Depression, it slammed down on our community, mostly because we focus on real estate. So right there, what you said is a movement away from what will really close the wealth gap. I believe that the gap exists because we're not entrepreneurs. And if more banks like yours would actually focus on doing business loans so that we could have our own businesses, then we would have an opportunity that we deserve to build wealth over generations and give career opportunities. But going into debt and purchasing a house that generally many people, most that purchase now can't afford, it's a government plan. There's research that shows that a lot of the wealth problem is because the government has used the Black community to buy homes with these government loans and foreclose because of the premiums that they're paying on those loans because of the high foreclosure rate. Okay, so Kevin, entrepreneurship is a much better
solution. Let me break this down for you, because there's several concepts that are critically important.
But going into debt,
it's mistakes. Okay. There's a couple of
how
really
are you going to purchase a home?
Either you want to buy a house or multifamily property is so you could build equity. What I was
but that could take 100 years in a Black community.
That's number one. That's number one. Two, you really misunderstand debt, and that's a major problem in Black communities.
No, it's not. I understand.
If you don't understand debt and you don't understand how to utilize debt to build wealth, you will never have anything.
You're right, but you can use debt to purchase an asset like a business.
Okay, one, you gotta understand how debt works. Two, you got to understand how equity is
and you
built.
Need to understand how business
the foundation works. Of the challenges that we face in our community. It's an issue really of not access to resources. It's an issue of financial literacy and us understanding as a people what we need to do to build wealth.
I
Once
understand.
Kevin, I
again,
want to.
this is not a difficult problem. Okay,
I
we have to
understand.
ask you
understand
this.
debt.
I want
We
to
have to understand debt,
Kevin, you
and
have
that's
to
the
admit
key
that
to
you are
doing it.
biased. You are
hold
biased.
that thought, JB. Kevin, I do want to ask you a question.
Billions of dollars of
Kevin,
real estate.
He's a
okay?
banker.
I
He's a
know
banker.
how real
Let's
estate
yield
works.
for a moment. Let's yield. Kevin, I do want to ask you, you talked about Black people being one transaction away from the wealth gap. And the thing that you mentioned was home ownership. What other transactions keep us away from the wealth gap outside of purchasing a home?
Wills, life insurance, investments, stocks, bonds, understanding when and how to buy them. Not just real estate that not just a home, but also multifamily real estate.
So Dr. Watkins, do you agree with that? Do you agree with those things keeping us one transaction away from that wealth gap?
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, here's the thing. Here's what's funny to me. I'm laughing because y'all are really on the same side. I mean, you know, what you're really saying is that is that debt is powerful. Debt is not a good thing. Debt is not a bad thing. Debt is powerful. It's like drugs. Are drugs good or are drugs bad? Well, it depends. Are you using it to heal yourself or are you using it to become a drug addict? Too much debt is bad. Student loans, for example, we've OD'd on student loan debt because you don't make enough revenue. A lot of college graduates don't make enough revenue from their job to repay the debt. So that's why a lot of our Black college graduates are going to die in debt. But that does not mean that student loan debt is always a bad thing, because sometimes it works out, right? It's all about how you balance the seesaw. So when I see debt, I don't see debt as a bad thing. Most major corporations in America were founded on debt. Billionaires were created from debt. Debt is a form of leverage that can propel you financially to the moon. But because it's so powerful, you just have to be careful. So to your point, Ms. Bryan, I agree with you. I think that we know that bad loans are bad. We know that paying too much interest can be a bad thing. Borrowing more than you can afford to repay is very bad. But I can say this as a person who's taken on debt to start businesses. I've taken on debt to buy a home. All of these things, I've even taken on debt to buy more stock. All of these things added to my net worth. None of them took away from my net worth. But believe me, it was a matter of understanding the significance and the importance of debt that made all the difference. So I don't even think this has to be a debate. I think it's a matter of really pointing out when debt can work for you and when it doesn't work for you.
Well, what's going to work for me right now is taking a quick break, and we're going to come back on the Tammi Mack Late Show on Fox Soul. So don't go anywhere, because this conversation is good. I feel like I've already closed the wealth gap just by listening. We'll be right back on the Tammi
Well
Mack
on your
Late
way.
Show.
Tammi Mack. Even though there is so much against us,
You will see me choose to protect myself and my community from the coronavirus by wearing a face covering.
Because it's going to take all of us thinking about one another.
And even with my face covered, you will see me.
You will see me as a mother, a wife, a friend.
As an athlete who gave everything to the game I love.
As a father, leading by example.
As a sister.
An entertainer.
As a champion for my people.
You will see me finding a light in a dark time.
To unlock our creativity and push our craft.
You will see me demanding the space to tell the stories that matter.
As a man who knows that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
join us in wearing a face covering to help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because covering your face is one small act of kindness that has the power to bring us together.
Certain movies that I love, like Love Jones and Why Do Fools Fall in Love, those movies weren't big in the box office.
Fox Soul presents.
That's because the lack of inclusion of Black people in the rooms to make the decisions on how to market to us.
Established with Angela Yee.
You know, media is really a powerful tool. And our parents was like, yo, y'all in it. Y'all need to find a way to change the narrative.
Every Thursday.
That's dope. I'm glad you said that.
Stream it live.
It's not just a donation.
It's a warm blanket.
It's a bottle of clean water.
It's a roof and a bed.
It's knowing someone cares.
It's feeling safe.
It's a today that's better than yesterday.
Every dollar you can spare helps so much more than you can imagine. Please donate now to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Your help is urgently needed.
Welcome back to the Tammi McLeod Show on Fox Soul. Tonight we are talking about the wealth gap. African Americans, 8 times. White people are worth 8 times more financially than Black people. How do we shrink that? How do we get on equal footing? If you want more of this content, you can log on to foxsoul.tv, or you can go to our Fox Soul app. Just download that bad boy. You can go to Fox Now, Fire TV, Roku, Tubi, Zumo. You can go to Apple TV, caffeine.tv. And we would love for you to chat with us, because we chat right back. We are live in this very moment. So please chat with us on YouTube right now. JB, you were talking about this wealth gap. Go ahead and make your point.
Well, my point is that Kevin was sharing that one transaction away would get rid of the wealth gap.
And he mentioned several of those transactions.
And other things afterwards. But the one thing that that he's really promoting is home ownership. And when we look at the last 50 years and plus since the March on Washington, home ownership for Black people is about the same. Home ownership is great, but you have to be in it for the long term. And it's basically residential home ownership is a savings tool that over the long term, maybe it will work out for you. But unfortunately, our Black communities get hit the hardest when we get to times like we're in now.
So JB, are you suggesting that home ownership doesn't create wealth?
What I'm begging for is for our leading Black bank to consider doing business loans, because over that same 50 years, businesses have grown. So imagine if our businesses, or businesses like mine, I started my business 25 years ago with only my own savings and investing. There was no bank that was interested. I challenge us, and I challenge our Black banks to consider saying that our wealth gap is because of lack of business ownership.
Kevin, I want to give you a chance to respond to that. I will say that Yelp has seen a 60% surge on Black businesses. People are looking to support and buy from Black businesses. So does One United support Black businesses financially by creating and giving them loans?
First off, we understand Black businesses and what the opportunities are and what the opportunities aren't. And so when you're thinking about businesses, first off, what I do agree with is we have an opportunity that comes out of now about 50% of our businesses disappearing as a result of COVID.
Yes.
So we lost half of our businesses. And the way those businesses are structured, i.e. not being structured so that your goods and services are sold through the internet, which is the real opportunity. Capitalism has undergone a reset. It's both an opportunity and a challenge, because a lot of us are still thinking about business as it existed before COVID.
Brick and mortars.
Brick and mortar, that's over. We have to recreate our entire business model so that we're participating not just in local economies, but regional and national economies. So in the rebuild of our businesses, it's all about technology and how to sell products using technology. That's the unique opportunity set that we have in front of us. But it's not the key. Businesses are a very small part of an economy. If you look at the number of people who own businesses versus the number of people who own real estate, one is 3% of the other. They're just the number of businesses, period, white or Black, are so small in comparison to the amount of real estate holdings that it's not viable to say that you're going to rebuild your wealth solely through businesses, because most people work for businesses. They don't own businesses. They aren't in an equity position.
And I think what JB is getting at is that more people should own businesses, and those businesses should be supported by Black banks.
Maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. Running a business they don't have to.
We don't have anywhere else to work right now. We have to start our own businesses. I have created a business network that is free. And every week we talk about business strategies. It is important.
If you look at businesses
it's vital.
I will tell you, if you look
how do we recover from COVID?
Name a successful Black business outside of one.
I am a successful Black business. I started my firm in 1995, and I have fed and housed many families over my career. That's all we need is for every Black person who wants to start a business to get the opportunity and not have to struggle as hard as I did and get some capital from a Black bank, and then any bank, but also ours.
Marie, you wanted to weigh in? Go ahead, Marie.
Understand the difference between debt and equity. Banks do debt,
small businesses.
Equity. The small impact of small businesses, the higher rate of failure of small businesses, and the need to reinvent yourself.
Afroeconomics is here. I can support you.
Well, let's yield. We're going to take a yield. We're going to take a yield here, JB. We're going to take a yield and yield to Marie.
Great.
I work with small businesses every day. And for us to change, we have to change our mindset. We have to understand the rules of a business, understand the structure of a business. Most of the businesses, small businesses that I work with, don't know the business structure. They don't know the importance of taxes. They don't know the importance of interest rate. So you go to buy a house and you charge 15% interest, while somebody may be charged 3% or 8% interest. So if we cannot, and if we don't change our mindset and develop and be a student of understanding business, we will forever be talking about
that for a minute.
Starting a business.
Let's talk about the mindset of Black people when it comes to money and the wealth gap and debt. I just ran across this video. Comedian Lil Duval, who's also become somewhat of a musician, if you will. He's had a #1 hit on the Billboard charts, believe it or not. And it was interesting what he said in terms of how he feels about credit. And since in the last segment, Dr. Watkins, we talked about debt, good debt versus bad debt. I want you to take a listen to what Lil Duval has said about credit.
I don't know why people care about credit so much.
What do you mean? Oh, well, you don't care about real estate.
No, even with real estate. To me, with real estate, if you can't buy it, don't get it. That's in anything. Like, I don't understand, like, why do we feel like we have to get loans on something, or just save up and get it?
Save up and get it.
That's almost impossible.
Okay, that is so...
But look,
that's the opposite of being correct.
Is that something that is
wrong? That's like
long-term wealth development.
Indeed. I will submit to you, anybody who says that to you has no understanding of business. They have no understanding of capital. They definitely shouldn't be
running
business. They shouldn't be running real estate. They need to be working for somebody and having somebody else make their decisions.
You are banker.
Dr. Watkins,
he probably has his own money.
Hold that thought, Marie. Dr. Watkins, weigh in on that for me, please.
First off, we got to really ask ourselves, why are we a community that thinks we need to take financial advice from comedians and entertainers, right?
He was right.
If I need advice on how to structure a good joke.
Everybody is right. Look, broke clock is right.
Hold on, JB. Let's yield to Dr. Watkins here.
Right, let's keep it 100 on that, right? It doesn't mean his opinion's invalid, but what he's stating is what they call a risk preference. It's like, if you talk about COVID, how should you respond to COVID? You ask 10 people, some people say you should never leave the house no matter what. Somebody else might say, well, you got to go out and you got to go to work to take care of the kids. Somebody else might say, I want to go on vacation. I'm not worried about it. I have a healthy immune system, right? Different people have different levels of tolerance for risk. So a person who says, if I can't buy it with cash, I don't want it. That's just a person who has a low tolerance for the leverage that comes with debt. That's okay, but that's not the right answer for everybody.
Or a high level of discipline.
Right.
But you know, back in the day, though, I have to say this. Back in the day, that's really how our parents and grandparents and great grandparents. That is how they live. They would say, if I can't buy it with the cash in my pocket, then I should not have it.
And they would at least.
I got that from. I actually got that from my great grandfather, who said that if you can't afford it, don't buy it, and if you can't buy it with cash, don't buy it at all. And so now I do have a rather healthy habit of saving to buy what I want. I'm not saying I'm not saying I take it all the way to the little Duval level.
Yes.
You have to live. But Whitney Houston, Whitney Houston would not have died broke.
Hold on, JB. Hold on, Marie. We're going to yield to Dr. Watkins. Go ahead, Dr. Watkins.
My grandma, who taught me about wealth, she was the same way, but she grew up during the Great Depression. So she had a very conservative mindset. When it came time for me to go to college, I could not pay for that with cash. Now, I could have sat there and worked at Arby's for 10 years to save up the money and started college when I was 30. But instead, I took a loan, flipped that loan into a lot more benefit long term. And it's a matter of using debt carefully. It doesn't mean that debt's for everybody, but it does mean that there are times where debt can do wonderful things. Jeff Bezos couldn't have built Amazon and been worth $270 billion if it wasn't for debt.
No, he did not have debt. Let me expand on that, Tammi.
Hold on, JB. Hold on, JB.
Please let me clarify.
Elon Musk.
Jeff did not have debt.
But no, but seriously though, like if you don't talk
well,
about
there's good debt and
hold
there's
on, Marie.
bad
Hold
debt.
on. Let him finish his thought. We're gonna let him finish his thought. Please go ahead, Doctor.
Debt is not criminal. Debt is not bad. Like there's no one size fits all approach to any of this. That's the thing. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're not right all the time.
Tammi, please.
And I think we have to accept that.
We're going to take a quick break. You, Marie, JB, hold on to your thoughts. Listen, this is what I got to say about debt, and particularly college debt. All I want for Christmas is my $27,892 loan paid off. That's all I want for Christmas. Can you help me, Kevin? Can you help me over there?
You're loving that degree. That degree got you. That degree got you where you are right now.
We'll be right back.
That debt got the reason you're talking to us right now is.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
I was physically at school, but my mind wasn't at school. I had problems at home. That's when I met Narnese. She started helping me a little bit, like, Nia, I don't know what you're doing, but your future is more important. She's my strength. It takes a village to help somebody get their diploma. It changes your whole life.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
145 over 92.
180 over 111.
I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest, and then a stroke.
Your blood pressure numbers could change your life.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
Lowering your high blood pressure could save you from a heart attack or stroke. If you've stopped your treatment plan, restart it or talk to your doctor about creating one that works better for you. Start taking the right steps at manageyourbp.org.
Now I'm, trying to get better, stronger than ever.
Welcome back to the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul. Our soulmates are chiming in here, so let's see what they have to say. From Black Beauty Trending, credit should be used to leverage. Y'all, you understand that? Credit.
That's a business term. That's business.
And another soulmate here, GH says you could loan yourself money from a private family bank.
There you go.
Generational wealth. Kevin, you're at One United. What does that mean? I don't even understand that. You could loan yourself money from a private family bank. What is that?
Well, it's a continuation of the conversation that we're having. And what at the root of the problem is financial literacy and how we convey information. Here again, we have people talking about everything from that doesn't work to I want to do the same thing that my great-grandfather or great-grandmother did. Those are belief systems that aren't rooted in economic reality. And more so than anything else, that's where this wealth gap comes from. It's we at this point, we're still as a people working on having a rudimentary understanding of how money works, understanding the trade-offs between risk and a reward and how to build equity in our society. And even when we benefit, I thought it was telling the story you talked about when you talked about your student loan. And just in talking to you, I'm sure you got so much benefit out of that education and will continue to get that benefit, but you somehow detach that from the fact that without the loan, you wouldn't have been able to get it because you wouldn't have been able to pay for school. And so that's the wonder of debt. That's the wonder of leverage. There's no major company that's ever been built, period, that would have been built without debt. Certainly no modern age company. So
can I elaborate on that?
JB, yes, I'll give a chance, but we got to let one person finish their thought before we break in. So go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. All right. Number one, okay. Without debt, you're not going to have enough money to be able to take advantage of the opportunities that a capitalistic system offers you. You can't function effectively in a capitalistic system without debt in mass. Does that doesn't mean that there are some individuals who save up enough money to do whatever they want to do with the money they save up, but that's not a model of success. That's an exception. It's this understanding this. What we spend as Black people, our biggest challenge is we sit around imagining obstacles being in our way that don't even exist.
Interesting.
And this is please I understand why we're that. Okay, the reason we don't have the money is real. We were slaves. They freed us. They didn't give us no money. They didn't give us no property. They didn't give us no education. But in addition to that, they had laws and were prohibiting us.
They did not give us our 40 mules.
So the reason we don't have wealth is real. But what's stopping us from growing that wealth is the lack of a basic understanding of how money works. And that's interesting because in this conversation.
Marie talked about
that's what we have to work on.
It's interesting because Marie talked about, hold on, Marie, hold on. Marie actually talked about the mindset, Kevin, and I do believe that's kind of where you're going, is how we still have the mindset of my great grandfather. We still have the mindset that just because I'm in nearly $30,000 debt for my school loan, that it wasn't a good investment because now I have this debt. So with that mindset, it's kind of preventing us from moving forward and taking those risks that we need to take debt wise. And Marie talked about that mindset. So go ahead, Marie, and go ahead.
Okay, in order for us to move forward, we have to continue to educate ourselves, investing in ourselves. When we speak about debt, the average person will think, well, maybe I can charge my credit card up and it's okay. When Jeff Bezos and whoever started their business, they had access to credit, not access to debt. They had access to credit, whether they had a CFO with very good credit that could have signed on the dotted line, or they themselves had good credit. So we have to be able to understand the value of our credit. We have to understand the value of the debt. If you owe the IRS, you owe the franchise tax board, that is debt. And you cannot go to One United and say, give me a loan. Oh, by the way, I have X amount of money that I owe the IRS. I have X amount of money that I owe the FTB. That is that many people cannot get from under. So changing our mindset will say, okay, what is the importance of my credit score?
Dr. Watkins, thank you, Marie. Dr. Watkins, there is a quote on the Black American Money website that reads, "Building up wealth is the ultimate form of community activism."
Mm-hmm.
Break that down.
Yeah, because money is power. You live in a capitalist society, and you live in a capitalist democracy, but democracy is like the little brother. Capitalism is the big brother. That's why you can't get anything done in our government without having wealth and assets, because the wealthy people control what your politicians do. So if you go study things like the Powernomics philosophy with Dr. Claude Anderson, things like that, I agree with his approach in the sense that if we solve that wealth problem, we can then solve the political problem, the educational problem, the problem with the police, the media problem, all the other problems. And so ultimately, if you really think about it, you think about the day-to-day life of a Black person in America, and why do you feel oppressed? Why do you feel depressed? Why do you feel suppressed? Why do you feel like you don't have a voice? Well, a lot of it's because every day you got to get up and go to work with people that hate you. And so the ability to liberate yourself from that is not just the key to your freedom, but it's the key to your mental health. Racism will drive you insane. And I know in my experience, as a Black man, who's had many jobs, terrible jobs. I grew up in poverty, all these other things. I remember, even when I got to the point where I got a PhD and I was supposed to be a successful man, I did not feel successful. I still felt like a slave. I was making a lot of money, but I was just a high-paid slave at that point. And that's when I began to dig deeper into things like when Ms. Bryan was mentioning entrepreneurship. I'm a big believer in that. And so my conclusion on that, though, is that, I don't believe every person wants to be an entrepreneur, but everyone should own a piece of a business, right? You can own a piece of a business by investing in an entrepreneur. You can go and buy shares of stock in companies that are out making money. There are a million different ways to make that money. And I will also say this, when we talk about this debt piece, I'll tell you, Amazon.com right now has $25.3 billion worth of debt. And they're not a stupid company. So I'm not going to sit here and say that we're wrong or right about any of this. I'll just say, though, that the access to credit, like Marie mentioned earlier, which to me is very connected to the access to debt, that's extremely important. But it's the responsible use of debt that helps you to become successful. You don't want to be sloppy with it.
So, JB, how do you feel about stocks as a way of bridging that wealth gap? Stocks, bonds.
I'm an investment advisor. I trade stocks every day. That's what my firm does. JB Bryan Financial Group, a registered investment advisory firm. I help thousands of family over
and how does that help to decrease the wealth gap?
It's tremendous because you are buying parts of ownership of businesses. It also, at the same time, it's very important to me as a part of Afroeconomics to make sure that people are investing correctly at work, because if we have investments, we're much more likely to have it through our 401k plan. And a lot of times we don't know how to allocate it, how it should be invested. So definitely, I believe in it. I encourage it. I support it. That's what I do every day. And it allows us to outpace. If you look at historical performance, the stock market has outpaced residential real estate big time. And if you look at a person who did go into debt for a home purchase, if they could have saved the money, minimized their living expenses, and invested the difference between the property taxes and the interest and all of the extra and put that into their work plan and got the match, they would have way outperformed the person who bought an overpriced, overfinanced home purchase. And I believe that we can use debt, but we should be purchasing our homes with like 10 and 20% down like your grandmother did. And I believe that historically we had much better. I think that it's disrespectful to our ancestors to say that they didn't have it right, because they had it right. And the banks wouldn't even allow them to go into debt unless they had at least that 20% down. And I
You know what? As a matter of fact, I want to talk about our ancestors and how right or wrong they had it when we come back. We want to take a quick break because I do want to revisit the past a little bit. It always sheds light on what's going on today. And we're talking about is having our own enough. And so I want to talk about how we at one time had our own. And somewhere down the line that disappeared. So hopefully our panelists can shed some light on that when we return on the Tammi McLeod Show on Fox Soul. We'll be right back.
Tammi Mac.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You're an attorney by trade. You're smarter than a lot of us that do this.
Fox Soul presents Hollywood Unlocked with Jason Lee Uncensored.
When you came in, I know there was like a lot of conversations like, well, how's she gonna fit in this platform? And I thought you did a great job.
Somebody told me that I wasn't going to do well in State of the Culture unless I got a gel nail set that was yellow.
Every Friday.
Wait, who said that?
Somebody real basic.
You know, I'm not going to put the people on Front Street, Jason Lee. Not today.
Well, I said it basic.
Here are your AARP top tips on caregiver preparedness during coronavirus. First, form a caregiving team. Create a list of people in your family and friend network who can help with caregiving tasks. Take an inventory of supplies in your loved one's home. Try to have a 2-week supply of essential items. Make a list of the care recipient's medications and medical contacts. Be sure to have prescriptions on hand and ask the pharmacist for an extra 30-day supply. Make a plan to stay connected. To prevent social isolation, set up available technology to help loved ones stay connected and schedule regular chats. Finally, maintain your own self-care. Follow the Centers for Disease Control's guidelines for coronavirus safety. And have a backup plan for care in case you become ill. For more caregiving tips during the coronavirus pandemic, go to aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back to the Tammi McLeod Show on Fox Soul. We're talking about the wealth gap with the African-American community. I always find it interesting how there was actually one time, and I ask this question all the time, it is a burning desire for me to gain knowledge about this. There was a time in our history where we had our own homes. We built our own homes. We bartered with one another. We even built our own communities, Rosewood, Black Wall Street. And then all of a sudden that disappeared. I think I got an answer before vaguely when a panelist told me that segregation, or rather integration, put an end to that. And I did a little research and thought perhaps that is true. But Kevin, because you do have ownership in an entire bank, which I hear people on my show and on other shows alike who are often into Black people should have their own, but no one ever really specifically says what that means. What the hell does that mean? Is that a realistic goal for Black people to have their own? Can we still create a Black Wall Street, a Rosewood? Can that still happen?
Well, okay. The answer is it can happen in a very different and important age. All right. The thing that we're going through now, what makes this such a unique time and a unique opportunity is for the first time, Black Americans have really been organized in scale and mechanized as a result of the internet. The internet has brought us together in a way that we've never been organized before, and given us a voice and power that we never had before. And in that way, we have come together, and that's what's causing the change you're seeing in society today. So when you see the protest movement, for instance, you gotta know that some Black man getting killed by some vigilantes in South Georgia has been going on since 1619 when we got here.
Absolutely.
Or a black man be getting killed in an urban street corner like Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's been happening for hundreds of years. There's nothing new about that. What is new is even though Martin, Malcolm, back to W.E.B. Du Bois and the whole crew, they all knew the importance of being organized, but they didn't have the vehicle for organizing in scale and enacting change. So we have a unique opportunity as Black people, coupled with our allies, to create social and economic and political change in our
When
society.
you say couple with our allies, do you mean white people?
Yeah, white people who support what we're doing. When you look at the protest movement, you see it's not just about Black people. Remember, our issue, what we're doing is we're promoting the development of our democracy. Black people have always traditionally played the role of improvers of the democracy. We really believe in things like all men and women are created equal, with liberty and justice for all. It's us and our trials and tribulations that made America's democracy a real thing. The thing that these white people came up with, the so-called founding fathers, that wasn't a democracy that was sustainable. That was all about rich white property owners. What makes America America, what gives America its strength is one, us, but it's the diversity of who we are. So we are coming together. We are organizing in a more important and significant way than when we had small segregated communities and we had a few.
So then you don't believe that our community should be segregated again. We should have our own in that instance in a Black Wall Street
power. We should have our own, and that's what we have. See, what's happening now is we have to understand that we have a power. We have power like that never existed before in the history of this country, because the internet allows us. You're experiencing it right now. This is the internet organizing us as a people, which gives. That's why the police departments, which have been in need of reform for hundreds of years, are finally getting reformed, is because of the power that we have as a people. We've never had this. And this power translates into many different things. One, it does definitely translate into understanding the business opportunities you have. There's never been a better time to get rich than now. It's never been easier than now to actually make some real money.
I'm sure JB would agree with that.
It's always a challenge for a Black person in America to actually make any kind of money easy.
Do you believe that we can have our own now? Is that plausible today, having our own?
Only if we're willing to grind, because
the way you're defining your own, you have to redefine your own. We have to understand the world we live in and how technology has affected the world we in and created. We have more of our own now than we ever had. We're organized at a level. We have a power to execute. We're
okay. No, I totally understand.
Right. So I'm gonna share about if we had. This is a great opportunity, I feel, for bankers to consider getting into commercial loans specifically.
But JB, I want to talk about. I understand you apparently have a problem with One United Bank. I love One United Bank.
I love One United Bank.
To air those grievances out continuously.
Oh no! But I'm going to make sure that is shared.
I think it is understood. I think we understood it at 9:05.
And even if it was XYZ or somebody.
But my question is, can we as Black people have our own Black Wall Street again? Does that work in today's system?
And the reason I was bringing up the banking part is because we do need to have capitalization. That would help. I mean, Everybody is saying that we
I understand that, but is it possible? My question is Black Wall Street, is our own neighborhoods where we own banks, where we own restaurants, where we own grocery stores, where we don't have to buy from anyone but Black people, is that viable today? Is my question.
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what you got. You got to understand your community now is not the person who lives down the street from you. It's the person.
I understand your answer, Kevin. I'm trying to get an answer from JB now.
I don't think that is necessary because of the technology and the level that we are now. I believe that we can have a massive Black commerce network, but it has to go beyond just being on the streets.
Okay, understood. I want to give Marie that same question. Marie?
I don't believe that in this day and age, it's necessary. I think we should continue to harness the power and learn to reshape the things that we are doing, but I don't think it's necessary now.
Right. So you're on the same page with Kevin. That's understandable. Dr. Watkins, what's your thought about that? Are we capable of doing a Black Wall Street? Is that viable in this day and age, 2021 almost?
Anything's possible because we can do anything. We just have to put our mind to it. And right now, to Kevin's point, there are digital Black Wall Streets being developed. If a person wanted to go through this whole holiday season and only buy Black, that's possible. You've got massive networks like We Buy Black, things like that where you can buy everything that you want from Black people. So that's doable. Now, the next step, though, is culture. Economics and wealth is culture. There are a lot of communities where entrepreneurship is very cultural. You don't even think about going to get a job. Ownership of assets is very cultural. By owning homes is very cultural. They don't pay rent. Rent to them is for suckers. So ultimately, we must look at the culture, shift our culture, how we raise our children to acclimate them to asset acquisition as a true cultural norm. And what you're going to see out of that is you're going to see a lot of economic fertility where businesses will come out of that. Wealth will come out of that. And like to Kevin's point earlier in the very beginning, when he said 177,000 that white people have in their net worth, that is not a difficult amount to acquire if you are a person that is determined throughout your life to acquire assets. It's not that hard to do. So yes, it's being built. It can be better and it will be better.
So this is what we're going to do when we come back. And I want you to maybe jot some things down because our soulmates are asking questions and they want answers. They want real answers. And I'm sure you can give them to us. And so think about this while we go to break. Tracy Cooper says, I hope this panel comes through with 1, 2, 3 steps to put in place for 2021. Anything pre-pandemic is null and void, she says. Hashtag Black Empowerment Matters. So when we come back, I'd like for you all to maybe give 2 steps to how Black people can increase their wealth and can do it tomorrow morning. And we're talking about, literal things to do. So we're going to answer that question for you, Tracy, when we get back, because we certainly got the right people on this panel to answer it. We're coming right back on the Tammi Mac Late Show on Fox Soul.
You know I gotta ask you, right? Are leaders born or are they made?
They're made.
Fox Soul presents.
When people ask me, are leaders born? I always look at them and say, well, of course they are. I've never met an unborn leader, okay?
Worth a Conversation with Jeezy.
I wrote a book called Developing the Leader Within You that basically said you can develop yourself as a leader. You can grow yourself.
Every Wednesday.
You got to go put out fires around the world and talk to different world leaders, but you came here today to talk to your brother Jeezy, and I love that.
You could be spreading the coronavirus without realizing you have it, so do your part and stay home. It's important to limit in-person interaction with anyone outside of your immediate household, but phone and video chat are safe ways to connect. It's also important to limit social gatherings. If you need essential items like food and medicine, try using a delivery service. If you must leave your house for essential items, or if you want to take a walk for exercise, make sure to wear a cloth face covering. Stay at least 6 feet away from other people. Try not to frequently touch surfaces like light signals, street signs, or benches. And wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as often as possible. This advice applies to people of any age, including teens and younger adults. It takes all of us to slow the spread of the coronavirus, so stay home unless absolutely necessary. Visit coronavirus.gov for the latest information.
I'm hyped, you know what I'm saying? Kicking off the holidays, y'all.
Cocktails with the Queens, hosted by Claudia Jordan.
Because you ladies are persevering through such a difficult time, the Queens would like to send you a little love. Can you ladies please check your cash apps right now?
Oh my gosh.
Every Monday night.
Surprise! Happy holidays! That's a good old cute ugly cry, just so you know, appreciate that. Go and give us that, girl. Come on, give us a good old Thanksgiving cry.
A financial advisor. Tell me real quick. I just need yes or no. Should I invest in Bitcoins?
I wouldn't suggest it.